spooky bitches, and welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. It's Monday, which means Jimmy Failla is here to get us prepped for Halloweekend, which, you know, I'm all for Halloween being the entire month of October, and here's why. When we were kids, the level of debauchery, they shut down an intersection of my suburban neighborhood just outside of Portland because of the shaving cream and the egg throwing.
Yes.
And I've always longed to get back to that splendid, just wilding.
Well,
because nowadays it's like you see kids,
Mhm.
you know, clumping up like that.
Mhm.
They're stealing stuff from Lululemon and punching old ladies in the face.
Yes. And then
Back then we were just lobbing eggs at Mercedes.
time was you could throw a watermelon off an overpass and, you know, like a responsible young man finding his way in the world.
Can't do that anymore.
I do get it. I, too, was part of, I guess you'd call it like almost Halloween hazing, eggs and shaving cream.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was tactful. We really weren't like assaulting vehicles or really doing damage to property, but we were
doing a little bit of property damage, but it was nothing you couldn't rinse off.
That's what I mean. Like we'd spray paint out, not spray paint, but shaving cream, a stop sign,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the school gym or something stupid. And I think that level for
the
real.
neighborhood floozy.
Well, listen, she needed a shave. I mean, I got to tell you, ours, she didn't have a lot of time between sets. You know, we had a few, and where I grew up, they put up a lot of numbers. And, you know, the point is that type of controlled chaos, I think in a weird way was good.
Yeah.
In a weird way, because it kind of policed itself.
I mean, that was free range parenting.
That's exactly what it was.
That was like your parents would send you out with a pillowcase.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's like they didn't know what you had in the pillowcase. They didn't know if you had a half a dozen eggs or, you know, can of Barbasol. They had no idea.
No.
They were just like, okay, just go get some candy and make sure let's look at the candy before you go to bed to make sure there's no razor blades.
The general rule of thumb, though, it's like the less your kid was trying on his outfit, the more likely he was engaging in chicanery. Because you go from like costumes to like all of a sudden you're like the seventh grader.
Paramilitary guerrilla warfare.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, but you're showing up in just like a half an Islanders jersey. Like I'm a hockey player. But there's no effort. You're wearing what you would have worn to school the day before. Yeah. But it entitles you to candy because it's a representation of some type of uniform. Mm-hmm. And once you got to that phase, that's when you were doing what you just described, which is Halloween became more about the haze than the feed.
So I still love the feed though. So
yeah.
I love, in New York City, here's how it goes. Because it's like, I don't know why people waste their time in the suburbs. Because in New York City high rise, you will get more candy than if you work at the Hershey's factory.
Is that true?
I'm not even kidding. So this is how they do it. The units that want to give out candy, you sign up and they give you a piece of paper to put on your door.
Oh my goodness.
So kids know to go to those doors. The higher the floor, the less likelihood of seeing kids. So kids know 7, 8 o'clock, they go knocking on those higher floor doors. And I'm telling you, like singletons and couples with no kids, they will empty out whatever they have in the bowl just to get you out of their hair. And like, my girls have come home with so much candy. My daughter's arms fell off one year. We had to take her to Mount Sinai so they could reattach her arms because the candy bag was so heavy.
I love this. There's an art to, I don't speak to the high rise art of trick or treating, but I do feel like Halloween at some point in the hours you just spoke to descends into not an exercise in benevolence by the homeowner, but an exercise in like, we've got to get this stuff out of the house.
It's a war of attrition.
Yeah. And that's what ultimately happens. As they run low on, you know, candy, you'll start to get other things. I've gotten shoe polish, you know, just things they need to get rid of.
We did have, you know, because the lore builds over the years.
Yeah.
And so the old people who haven't had kids for a long, long time, they're very consistent. So, and you got to stay away from them because either they try and rope you into coming in the house. So we had old people like, oh, let's bob for apples. But the apples are like really, really old and real wormy. And it's like, and then you have the angry old people who would tape 5 pennies together.
Oh, the penny people.
Yeah, the penny people.
The two worst things you could ever be are penny people or apple people. Like if you gave out an apple, you usually got the apple back.
Sure
and not in a nice way.
Right, the windshield of the Buick.
And you can always tell which house is going to give you apples. It's the one with apples on its roof. It's the one with apples on its cars. It's the one with apples on the front windows. If you gave out apples, you got apples back.
and some eggs.
Straight
and
up.
some shaving
Yes,
cream.
you got plenty back in return.
Toilet paper.
You got it all back. Okay. The penny guy, you're just like, you might just forewarn the other people. Pennies, and they might not go. And they might have meant well. But I think, honestly, this is where Halloween would succeed. I think we should recognize it as an exercise, and you called it free-range parenting, because one thing I will tell you in the suburbs is no kids trick-or-treat alone anymore. They trick-or-treat in groups of 30 with 60 parents, 50 parents behind them, towing radio flyer wagons filled with alcohol. Yes, and they're all filming it, and they've got to take a picture at every house and at every picture. And to be honest with you, for the kids, it's almost like a drag now. They don't enjoy it the way we did.
No.
Because part of why we enjoyed
it's very demonstrative on the part of the adults.
Yeah.
Like, we have to prove we had the family costume, and we had the best decorations, and grandma's going to stay behind and give out the keto treats.
Yeah, nobody... And the kids just want to like run from house to house to house. But when you have to
egging and shaving creaming.
Well, in a perfect world. But even in the age where they're just in it for the candy, like they're thrilled to have a costume on, they still just want to go at their own pace. They don't want to worry for all 28 kids. They just want to go. And there was kind of like this natural selection aspect to who you trick-or-treated with. You might start with 12 people, but you might finish the day with 2 like-minded people who just wanted as much candy as they could, and 2 people who'd splinter off. And this is where I think the overbearing public posture of parenthood now, I think, is a detriment to the kids, because those were their stand by me moments. They didn't quite go see a dead body, but they knocked on homes that looked like they might have one inside. And you got that rush of like, whoa, and we got out of there with a Snickers, and that's amazing.
We got yelled at by a woman. I'll never forget one year. She's like, the lights are out. And when the lights are out, Halloween is over. And I'm like, bitch, you're like 2 houses away from my house. Like, I just want one more bonus $100,000 before I get back home, because I know my brothers are going to steal it anyway. So I gotta do, I need an insurance policy.
I gotta respect
Make sure
that.
I fall into a diabetic coma tonight, because it's the only chance I have.
If someone doesn't get their foot sawed off, we have failed as a Halloween. Someone needs every type of diabetes you've ever heard of.
Yeah, Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, the best.
The patron saint of Halloween and diabetes.
Thank you. Wilford Brimley, who, by the way, not to get sidetracked, plays the manager in The Natural. And he's so good. He's the one who keeps telling Roy Hobbs to sit one out. But I got us off message. Wilford Brimley would want you to let your kids trick or treat on their own. He told me that personally.
Yeah.
He said, just let them out of the house.
Oh, wait, let's get our Ouija board out.
Mr. Brimley. There it is. But here's the thing. Halloween, really quick. Okay. I grew up where Halloween was the Super Bowl. Do you remember there was a Garfield Halloween special where he just, the whole thing is candy, 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 candy. It's so healthy to have that thing. And I think I think we need to throw back. We need to scale back Halloween. You said there are parents now in city high rises that have signs that say we're participating. I think we could, even if we've just got to make it a zone. There's like a 2-block area that's a parent-free trick-or-treat zone. Now, the parents are there on the other side. You could still geotag your kid with an app, but give him a few blocks of running door to door on his own without catching up with the group and making sure the dog's costume is on right.
Yeah, see, my girls always knew when to do that.
Yeah.
As soon as mom cracked the 5th White Claw, they knew it was okay to ask permission to just speed off on their own.
They knew how to work those refs.
And now my older daughter, to whom you have given some sage advice for college, she is at a party school where Halloween is the big event.
Whoa.
So I might send an exorcist before.
Well, what I think might happen this year, this is where colleges might benefit, for real. In the past, there has been like a real aggressive over-policing of Halloween. Like, you can't wear anything. It might be insensitive, I think the world is bad enough in the moment that we might get back to perspective that a Halloween costume is not a threat to anybody, that it's not really an attack or a cultural appropriation or, anything like that. I think we might be getting perspective forced on us in this moment in a way that might absolve your daughter from going.
So my Palestinian Jeffrey Epstein costume might actually be well received.
The thing you recommended for her might be passable this year. Maybe not next year, maybe not last year, but this might be your moment to get away with this.
Oh, the things that we got away with that our kids may never be able to, because parents are ruining childhood by overparenting.
That's what I mean. Yeah. And Halloween was a day to cut the cord and just let them go. They'd figure out basic life skills. And people would say like, oh, well, You got to police them. Somebody's going to put a razor in a Jolly Rancher. I'm like, yo.
Do you know how hard that is?
Well, number one. But number two, if your kid can't spot the razor in the Jolly Rancher, he wasn't long for this place anyway. It's like, come on, man. I'm not saying there aren't bad actors out there, but I'm saying it's like at some point we got to let these kids kind of, they've got to develop. They got to
cut their tongue.
They've got stop it. But we do need to develop some self-preservation instincts, and I think Halloween went a long way towards doing that.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, no, but I'm not wrong to long for the glory days where a little bit of vandalism went a long way in terms of really making memories.
Thank you. Okay, it's the shaving creaming, the egging, things like that. And that was also like a step towards adulthood, when you started to get, attacked because they were treating you as like kind of an equal to the older kids, because the worst kids in your neighborhood really did know better than to hold down a 5-year-old and put a shaving cream bottle in their mouth. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they did it anyway because it was fun, but they knew better. You know what I mean? They knew better. Okay. But the truth is that was part of your evolution socially. So I'm not advocating for violence or massive property destruction, but I am advocating
minimal property destruction.
Thank you. Just very minimal, preferably none that I own in a perfect world.
Well, we'll have to check in and see what happened and who had the best Halloweekend.
This could age poorly. Where'd my windshield go? I was just on a Kennedy podcast. I got no windshield.
This is a perfectly good Bronco.
Save this world.
OJ. All right, well, we'll see how you fare. Let your kids do what they want to do. And if you have to relive your Halloween through them, just do it on your own time. Cut the cord and make the memories. This has been Kennedy Saves the World. Along with Jimmy Failla, I'm Kennedy. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app. Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.